owns Jules of Jules Realty, your real estate boutique located in the heart of Newark, New Jersey, at the Renaissance Towers. And today for our real estate lunch roundtable, we have with us our very own electrical guru, Mr. Darren Jack of Only Choice Contracting. Thank you so much, Jack. I call you Jack. I didn't even know you had a first name. How you doing, Jack?
I'm all right, and you?
Good. Thank you for joining me today. So we are going to talk about electrical and everything that people need to be aware of when they're purchasing their first home, or if they're upgrading their home, or if they are thinking about maybe selling their house and they want to have some tips on getting their electrical systems in order. So let's get started. Let me see. The first question I want to ask you, in our area, we have a lot of old homes, like homes that are built 1800s, early 1900s. When a person is thinking of buying an older home, what are some of the things they need to look out for when it comes to electrical system?
Federal Pacific is the first thing you gotta look out for. The breakers do not trip as fast as the new breakers. We have the second generation of breakers, which is regular breakers as we know it. But the newest version, we got arc-fault breakers now. So these stuff will trip just by pulling out a plug and fumbling it, put it back in, it will trip. So, but an older home, you definitely gotta look for you have to look for Federal Pacific breakers. They bad news. And once you have Federal Pacific, you go on to look at the wiring, which will be number 2, even more bad news. So you definitely want to look for Federal Pacific breakers. And you will want to go in the basement and make sure and open the panel box. Because a lot of people might have a new panel box, but they will have old breakers, old wiring in the new panel box. But the home inspector will make sure and open that. But if he do forget, this is a question you should ask him for a picture. You want a picture, or you want to see in the old box or new box. You want to see the wiring in it. A lot of times it have tricks the homeowner will do, who's selling, or the contractor, whoever. They will put in a brand new box and they will fill it up with a bunch of breakers and say, listen, you got a new service. They will do the service on the outside. They're going to say you have brand new electrical. So you got to open the box. When you open the box, you're going to see the wiring in it. Or you're going to see how much breakers it actually have in it. With the box closed, you might see 20 breakers. But with the box open, you might only see 2 breakers. So you definitely want to open the breaker box.
You mentioned something like the knob and tube. Is that when I go into a house and I can punch the lights on? Is that a signal for me to know that it's probably some old electrical?
Well, if you have them punch switch, the little knob switch, you push it on and push it off, it will tell you behind that switch, it will have knob and tube.
Okay.
Unless you go in an antique guy house that he wants those switch, which is very 1 in probably 10 million.
Right.
But anytime you see that knob switch, you push in up, you push out, then you definitely want to open. You want to tell the home inspector, hey, listen, I need you to open that switch to see what's behind that switch.
Yeah, that's good. So how important are the amps of a house? The
amps in a house is according to what you have in your house.
Okay.
If you have a swimming pool, if you got an electric dryer, you got an electric stove, it's very important. Then you want to get a lot of amps, which is the regular amps now is 200 amps. So there's the next question for the home inspector. Listen, I would like to know how much amps this house having. So the older homes could have 60 amps. They could have 60 amps. They could have 100 amp. 100 amp, you're gonna get away with a lot of stuff. But if you got 60 amp, you definitely want to upgrade your service outside. You want to upgrade your service outside. But by updating your service outside doesn't mean that the wiring in your house is good. So even though you update your service outside and you want to put a 12,000 BTU AC on, it could burn up the wire in the wall. So you got to speak to your local electrician, inspector. You got to speak to them before you make these major decisions because it could cause fires.
Okay. So that takes me to my next question about wiring. So when it comes to wiring, I saw, I guess some of the older houses have the copper wires. Is that right? Or I don't.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with that? And say, for instance, you have old wiring, but you want to use energy efficient appliances. You want to get these new appliances. How does that work with the old wiring? Or does it?
Well, it will work. The new energy efficient stuff is very good because it takes a lot of load off of the wiring, off of the old wiring. So when you go and you want, I'm going to come back to the HVAC. When you go and you want a big HVAC to cool to cool down, you want to get energy efficient. The higher it is, the higher stars you got, is less load on the old wiring. But if you got new wiring, then you don't have to worry about it. You can plug in anything you want.
Kitchens and bathrooms, GFIs. What's the deal with that?
GFI is to protect you, just in case your hands is wet. Normally your hands will be wet in the kitchen or the bathroom. So you got to make sure you ground it and be able to, for it to trip off very quick. With the new breakers, you got the combination, it got arc fault and GFI combination. You don't even need a GFI in the kitchen or the bathroom if you got them new breakers. The new breakers is very expensive, but it's very sensitive. So even if your hand is wet or whatever, it's going to trip it off like a snap. I don't think you will have time to get shocked. It will just trip. It's very, very, very sensitive. But GFI, I will recommend, if you go in the house, make sure it have a GFI, because most of the time, as a homeowner, you don't understand what is an arc fault GFI combination breaker. So, that's something that you will want to make sure it happens.
Okay. When it comes to doing upgrades or buying a house that has recently had upgrades done, what do you say about permits? I mean, when do you have to have a permit done?
Well, you have to have a permit for anytime you add in something or replacing something major. Anytime you add in an extra outlet, you want to have permits. Anytime you're going to add an extra light outlet, you're going to put a pool outside. Anything you have to have permits for. But if you're just replacing an outlet, replacing a light, you don't have to have permit. If you just, replacing basic stuff. As I say, anytime you're doing anything, you add in anything. The only time you will have to pull a permit to replace something is something like a water heater. You have to pull a permit. But a basic light, if you're replacing lights, you're replacing outlets, you do not have to pull any permits. But if you anything major, you add in something is major. Add in an outlet, add in lights, add in, a plug for a pool, add in an extra plug for outside for whatever you choose to use it with. You have to pull permits.
You're working, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do appreciate you. And we're going to have to do this again, because not only is Jack a licensed electrician, he's also a licensed plumber. So I think that would be another good topic to talk about one of these days, as far as, getting, you're ready for a home when it comes to the plumbing. There's a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues.
So anything else you can close us out with that you think we should know about when it comes to electrical?
Well, the best thing I tell everybody, have an inspector. The home inspector go through. Once you have a good one, they basically touch on everything. They touch on structural, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. So having a good home inspector is the key.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Last week, we had a chance to speak with Danny E. of D-Dan Associates. He's a home inspector in the area, and he broke it down. So that's very true. You have to have an excellent home inspector as well as an excellent electrician. So I'm glad to know we have some good people on in our Rolodex. All right. Thank you guys for taking your time out during your lunch to hang out with us. And we appreciate the wisdom that Jack brought to the table. So enjoy your lunch and join us next week at the Jules Realty Real Estate Lunch Round Table. And be blessed. Peace.